Yeah, I'm going to be talking of teaching and giving tutorials on diseases induced by mind, the psychological based diseases. At medical schools, we are merely taught about other ways in which diseases can be acquired. You see, most schools talk about microbial-based diseases, metabolic-based diseases, that is chemical disorders of the body that lead to certain diseases. And also we are taught at school hereditary-based diseases, then traumatic-based diseases, that is diseases that resulted from accidents. But we are not often taught diseases that are induced by mind, the psychologically based diseases. Mind played a major role in disease formations. And diseases that result from minds, most of them are fatal and worrisome. Yes, these are the sequence in which mind could induce diseases. First, certain information is related. It's what we call voice informations. Voice information could come from individual, from a person, radio, TV, or any other means. And such could generate diseases. Sight information. What I mean by sight information, you just suddenly see what you are not supposed to see. It could also generate diseases. I'm going to break it down how these diseases are acquired through biochemical pathways and molecular sequence. Yes, written information can still induce a psychological based disease. Individual may be reading newspaper or reading any books and come across certain information is not supposed to read. That could also initiate a psychological based disease. Other aspect of psychological based disease could be guiltiness, feeling of guilt, immorality, failure, disappointment. All these factors do generate pathological based diseases. Psychological based diseases are enormous. Most hypertensions are regarded unknown origin, that the hypertension is from unknown origin. And most hypertension from unknown origin is most times linked to psychological based hypertension. However, this is how such could be related, or such could be related to establish disease formation in our body system. For instance, individual having feeling of guilt about what he did wrong. Say, for instance, individual who committed a heinous crime that killed a fellow human being for no just reason. And as such, there is a type of waves and feelings that crawl in such individuals. The feelings keep on crawling and moving as waves. So as short waves continues, what we call psychoreceptors or P receptors. Receptors are a form of proteins that bind specific feelings or waves of information that goes around in the body of such individuals. These receptors, once it binds such feelings, it initiates a neural response. It initiates neurotransmission. Yes. There are certain chemicals in the body called neurotransmitters that are involved in neurotransmission. This thing causes or induces a kind of wave of depolarization. And it moves like an impulse transmission. Now, what I mean is that to ordinary people, because I'm not just talking to people that have medical background, I'm talking to the public. What I mean is that how disease can be induced through mindset. So on the issue of individual who committed a heinous crime, let's say individual who killed a fellow person, there's a peculiar feelings or waves of feelings that crawl in the body of such individuals. Certain proteins called receptosites, they are called psychoreceptor. And what we call psycho, we are talking about mind. Psycho has to do with brain in relation to mind. And any diseases that is related to mind and also related to cell lines of the body is ascribed as psychosomatic diseases. So when such waves moves on, this type of receptors bind with such feelings because there are different types of psychoreceptors. There are P1 receptor, P2 receptor, there's PT receptor, even P3 receptors. So depending on the propagation of the feelings or what stimulates such feelings or waves of feelings that crawl in the body. But if the killing was spiritually driven or spiritually motivated, the type of receptor that will be secreted in the body to bind such feelings is PT receptors. Yes, it binds. Once it binds, it initiates a neurotransmission. There's electricity in the body. Yes, it's electricity in the body innervates the body, even the heart. Supply the heart. That's the reason why heart can pump its normal stroke volume, or the rhythmic condition of the heart beating, is due to electricity supply by the brain to the heart. So, evidence of treating in the body is that when you touch an individual and the person feel that you touch individual, that's an evidence of electricity in the body. So, they come as a form of current. Once the P receptor, the psychoreceptor, psycho is mind, and this receptor is a form of proteins. Once it binds with such feelings, it initiates a transmission, a neural transmission, which will come as an impulse or an impulse transmission, a form of current, a form of electrical current that move on. And such continuous current, when not detached, if not quenched, it could affect both the central nervous system and the autonomous nervous system, especially the parasympathetic and the sympathetic. And as such, as the feeling move on and this parasympathetic and sympathetic are affected, it initiates a kind of raised blood pressure or it could induce a cardiogenic shock, mental confusion, or even paralysis. Yes, and it could also induce a sudden death, depending on the wave of feelings that is being propagated, depending on the amount of feelings that go through such individuals. Yes, this is how you see this thing could be propagated. The molecular studies of this shall not be addressed now because it's completely medical based. Yes, but I shall be visiting so many schools to deliver the seminars. Yes, so what I'm trying to say is that it is not only microorganisms, bacteria, viruses that can cause diseases. It is not only metabolic disorders. What I mean by metabolic disorder, chemical disorder like disorder of sugar that lead to diabetes, atherosclerosis, disorder of copper, disorder of magnesium. These are all chemical disorders. It's not only all that can induce diseases. And it's not only hereditary diseases that disease formations can be established. And it's not only through accidents. So what I'm trying to say is that our psychological well-being, state of mind, can also induce a devastating diseases that you treat, and there's no resolution. You see, psychological based diseases most times are undiagnosed. You go to hospital, they could diagnose maybe malaria or typhoid fever or any other ailment. Even if those ailments are there and you treat, if you do not treat the primary ailment, which is psychologically induced disease that such person have, the problem subsists, the problem continues. Yes. So these are ways in which individual could induce disease through the mind or through psychological moiety. Yes. Somebody could hear voices, maybe hear information through a voice, radio and all that. And information is not supposed to hear. It could induce a cardiogenic shock, a heart shutdown, or sudden death, or raised BP or paralysis. Yes, there's some bad news, bad information that could come, and this thing could generate within milliseconds, or it could be delayed. You see, it depending on the wave of polarization, depending on the transmission that is being incubated in the body. Such disease formation could be delayed, maybe for some time or for a little bit of time and all that, or it could be sudden. A sudden response is the most dangerous because it could lead to sudden death, madness, it could lead to madness, mental confusion, emotional disorder, and restlessness. Yes. So other psychological base or other factors in which mind could induce disease could even be written information. You are reading newspaper and you come across a bad information that is directly related to you and you are not supposed to read it at that time. The individual could just collapse, fainted. So these are ways in which disease formation can be formed. But one thing that is involved to generate this disease formation is due to secretion of psychoreceptors known as P receptors. And psychoreceptors facilitating neurotransmissions, which in turn affect the nervous system. and invariably establishing a disease condition. If, for instance, stroke is developed as a result of such emotional disorders, as a result of such information or guiltiness and all that, if stroke evolve, you see, it could lead to, maybe further nerve damage or vessel rupture within the body. There could even be extradural hemorrhage within the brain cavity and all that, which will be very fatal. And secondary event of stroke, the individual hardly survive it. So what I'm trying to say is that if stroke develop due to psychologically based diseases and such is not properly treated, such individual could develop further disease conditions and which could worsen such individual. So it's always good for persons to relax his mind. Immorality, failure, disappointment can also stimulate a psychological based diseases which could be fatal. So it's always good to relax the mind and do away from evils. Yes, once you embrace morality, what is the gain of involving in one heinous crime or the other? When you kill a fellow person, there's no way you will not die. Because every person that has life must die. Nobody has absolute power to stay on forever. That it's always good that we embrace morality and good behavioral conduct, especially to avoid these psychological based diseases that are induced by mind. Yes. So what I'm trying to establish is that it is not only microorganisms, not only inflammatory diseases that disturb mankind. It is not only metabolic diseases that disturb mankind. It is not only hereditary. Most diseases unknown are even psychologically based diseases. You see, a lot of hypertension are made psychologically based diseases, maybe due to disappointment, failure. There are some hypertension that could be drug induced. Hypertension that could be induced due to a particular disease condition in the body, for instance, individual having diabetics and all that. Such person can easily develop hypertension. But a lot of hypertension, most of them are psychologically based diseases. And that is why such person, there are times drugs may not be required for such person just need psychotherapy to actually solve such clinical problem. Thank you for listening.